Welcome to the Berry-Tramel Show. Kansas State coach Chris Klieman joins us. K-Staters host Oklahoma State on Saturday in a Big 12 football game. And Chris, rough night in Provo, Utah. Cowboys had a rough day in Stillwater. Is this what we're in for in the new look Big 12, where everybody's pretty even? You don't know what you're going to get. You got to play well or you could be in trouble.
Well, I think that's college football right now, too, with the amount of teams that you don't know a lot about because of transfers and whether new to the league, whatever you may have it. But I didn't. I've watched a lot of the Oklahoma State game from Utah, but not probably in sequence. For us, if you're going to turn the football over and have two non-offensive touchdowns, it's going to be hard to overcome. And we had a tough night trying to overcome that, even though we started off well. This league's pretty good, and every week you better have your A game or you're going to get beat, whether you're home or away.
I got to see most of your game in Provo. Very strange game. BYU scores 4 touchdowns in about a 6-minute span. How good are the Cougars, and are they a Big 12 contender?
I think they're really good at home. Well, I think maybe the jury's out on what they'll do on the road. The one thing that I would say is on the road, defense travels, and they have a really good defense. I thought their front seven was really, really good, which made it a little bit difficult on us. They had a great home crowd. It was like going to all the venues that you've been to and I've been to that have passionate fan bases with great students and great community support. I thought the environment was awesome. And, when they got a lead on us, they kind of changed what they probably needed to do on defense and sat back a little bit and laid their ears back. And so I was very impressed with them. But I've been a fan of Kalani. Kalani and I are good friends, and he's got a good team this year.
Of course, it's a big day for the state of Utah. The Utes come to Oklahoma and take care of OSU. What did you make of the OSU-Utah game?
As I watched it, I was super impressed with Utah did what they did on defense and had success against Oklahoma State with their style of defense. Not a lot of people play that style of defense. We don't. Some other schools don't. That I was impressed with their defense of how good they were at corner, how good they were up front. And then I guess the thing that you always hear about Utah really good in the offensive line. I thought their tight ends were a huge difference in that game, and their tight ends blocked exceptionally well. The running back's a stud, we know, and then they were able to do some things in the pass game. So all that being said, just as you hear and anticipate, and I've seen with the Mike-Gundy coach team, they had a chance to win late, and if they get a stop, they probably do score. Must have been a heck of a game there.
Well, of course, you've seen OSU several years now. Ollie Gordon not getting out of the blocks yet. What have teams done to stop Ollie Gordon? Is that something you guys can build upon? Or is this a case of he's going to explode some Saturday? What's going on with Ollie Gordon?
Yeah, there's nothing going wrong with Ollie Gordon, in my opinion. He's still one of the elite backs in college football. And I haven't followed. Once again, I watch these games way differently than a lot of people do because they're part of our cut-ups and stuff. But it looks to me like a lot of people are daring them to throw the football and putting as many guys up there to try to slow down what Ollie can do. And they're taking what the defense has given them, which has them really throwing the ball at a high rate. I know they probably didn't throw it as well as they wanted to against Utah, but you see these other games where they're throwing it at will because there's so many people up in the box to defend the run. And I know Bowman's a terrific player, very seasoned, good leader, and their wide receivers are dynamite. All those guys can take it to the house and are really talented. Presley's been around there for a long time. So I think some of that is just how defenses are playing them.
Let's talk about the Wildcats. First of all, OSU went up there a couple of years ago. K-State put a 48-0 licking on them. Manhattan, a very tough place to play. Bill Snyder, of course, created a great legacy. The fans rallied, turned that stadium into a hornet's nest. You've enhanced on that. won the 2022 Big 12 title. What is it about that stadium, that environment that has become such a home field advantage for Kansas State?
Well, her fans care. They're passionate. We've got a great student base in band that gets it going early, and then the tailgate lots. You know, we're everybody's right there on top of you. I love the when we drive up and the tailgate lots are full. It's what college football is supposed to be about. And there's, you know, it's pretty easy parking for the most part. And then they fill that stadium, and the stadium is right on top of you. It's fun. I'm excited because every time you get a chance to play at home, I think we're at 17 or 18 straight sellouts now, which is, you know, I think a really cool thing that, you know, the fans care. They like good football. For the most part, we've played decent football. And it's, yeah, but you still, whether you're home or away, you've got to be able to execute. And, when we execute well, we play well. When we don't execute well, we're in for a dogfight. So but we've had great fan support here.
Of course, you guys have high expectations for K-State, picked second in the preseason. Still, of course, have a road to Arlington for the Big 12 title game. But it's a unique situation in which you had a veteran quarterback who moved on in the transfer portal, Will Howard. You had Avery Johnson, the young guy, ready to step in. We saw a similar thing in our state with Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Arnold. What was it about Avery Johnson that made you think, hey, this is okay for if Will's going to move on, we're going to be in good shape?
Well, for starters, not very likely anymore in college football are you going to be able to afford two quarterbacks. That's the thing that nobody really wants to talk about, but that's part of it. You're going to be able to afford one guy with NIL and all the other things that are going on. And we saw a lot of things out of Avery, local kid, huge ceiling, going to be here for a while. That you know, we were going to hand the keys over to him. And Will and I had a really good conversation, and I hope nothing but the best for Will Howard. But you know, that's kind of what college football is right now. And I'm excited. Avery's best football is still in front of him. He's continuing to learn. Now he's on like start number 5 as a college player. It doesn't happen overnight, and you got to be really good around him. And I don't think we've been great around him, and we have to be better collectively offensively. And if we are O-line, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, he'll even be better. And so I'm pleased with where he's at right now. I know that his best football is in front of him. I know he can play better. I know he will continue to grow and play better, but it's also the supporting cast that's got to be better around him.
When you look at a guy like Avery Johnson, everybody's scared of his legs. Passing is coming along, but the threat of the run is really what scares defenses. Is that good timing for what seems to be going on in college football? I mean, it looks like defense is coming back in college football. We're seeing lower scores, longer possessions, not as much tempo. Are we seeing a change in college football?
You know, it's interesting you say that. We noticed that the games are going a little bit different as far as the number of plays. You know, the TV timeouts make it a longer game still, but the number of plays that you're having on offense and defense have been down a little bit. And you still will get that 80 play a game on one side of the ball, but you're not seeing that 95, 97 play. So you got to be more efficient with what you do offensively. I still am a big believer you still have to have balance and being able to rush the football. If you cannot rush the football, you're not going to win in college football. You have to be able to rush it, but you can't only do that. You got to have really good balance. And you're right, Avery's tremendous with his legs, and it does frighten people. It should, because the kid's really, really fast. But we've got to continue to work for that balance where we're not asking him to run it 18 times, that he's going to get 7 or 8 maybe design runs, 4 or 5 scrambles, but we've got to be able to spin it around out there 25 to 35 times in an efficient way. But you can't do that when you're playing 50 plays or 55 plays. You need to get that count up into the upper 60s and 70s. And that's just harder to do now with that clock running after first downs.
When you talked about Avery Johnson and the financial side of this that nobody wants to talk about, Mike Gundy has said some of the same things in Stillwater. Is schools like Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, traditional old Big 8 schools, good football programs, not huge fan bases in terms of massive population of metro areas, those kinds of things. Are those schools still going to be able to compete when finances come into the recruiting game? Kansas State's got as loyal fan base as anybody I know of. Is that going to be enough to support this new financial structure of college football?
We hope that's what the revenue sharing does. We're still waiting for that. Maybe when you air this, the revenue sharing settlement will come out. Who knows? But in the traditional state of only NIL, it's difficult, because there's going to be other places that are going to be able to have 25 million allocated to football and 20 million allocated to football. I don't think Mike and I know that that's probably not happening at Kansas State and Oklahoma State. What the revenue sharing does, I don't know. Maybe it tries to level the playing field, but we all know the game itself of football is fine and going to continue to be fine. It's everything around the game of football that's outside of the lines that we've got to see what's going to happen next, because it's changing and it continues to change off the field, and we've got to figure out what those parameters are so that we can work within those parameters.
Of course, it's a new look Big 12, 16-team version. Oklahoma and Texas gone. Utah, Colorado, the Arizona schools come in, along with the newcomers from last year. I mean, I tell people, we've got 6 schools in this league that were in the conference 15 years ago. So it's a brand new league. Do you like this new league? It looks wide open. It looks like it's there for the taking for whoever wants to play good and get after it. Do you like the look of this new 16-team Big 12?
Yeah, I do. I know we lost Oklahoma and Texas. I thought our commissioner did a great job of stacking a bunch of really good teams in there. A couple things that I wish would happen. I don't like the 9 conference games we have, where 5 are home and 4 are on the road, and we still have to play another Power 5 school. That just makes no sense to me. Then just play 10 conference games, have 5 at home and 5 on the road, or play 8 conference games, 4 and 4, and find another non-con game. The 9 conference games with uneven scheduling, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get why we do that. And the fact that you're going to not play everybody. I don't know when our time is when we don't play Oklahoma State. There's a time we don't play Iowa State. That's really strange to me. This year we don't play Baylor, TCU, or Tech, and we're in the Big 12. And I've been here for now going on 6 years, and I've got a litany of notes from those schools, and we don't play them. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but we're changing, we're evolving. The only other thing and I'm getting too old for this stuff, getting home at 6 in the morning after playing a game that starts at 9:30 Central, I know we have no control over, and TV pays the bills. That is hard. And then we're going to turn around and play an 11 o'clock game against Oklahoma State on the next Saturday morning. Something's got to give there. And I know we don't have any control over that, but I wish the people would realize how difficult they're making that on the student athletes and the coaches.
Would you support a scheduling model where the schools out west aren't playing each other every single year either? Would you support a scheduling model where the schools out west are guaranteed to play each other every year? Schools in the old Big 12 play each other every year, schools east, that kind of thing. Just try to bring a little bit more certainty to the regionalization of the Big 12.
Absolutely. 100%. We should do it.
Yeah.
And I also think we're not done with conference realignment either. I think, I don't know if it'll happen in my time in coaching or Mike's time in coaching, but we're going to have more schools in here. Things are still going to change and evolve. What's going to happen? Are the 40 schools going to break away, 50 schools, whatever it may be? I think there's more change coming to that. And it's all going to be revenue and TV driven, and we get it, and college football playoff driven. We get it. We know that that's going to happen, but we're not quite as bad as what's going on in the Big Ten with Washington and Oregon going out to Rutgers and Penn State and stuff, but it's coming. And we're seeing it right now with Arizona and UCF and Utah and West Virginia. I mean, those are some long trips now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Here's what I tell people, Chris. I say, listen, it's madness. The conference realignment will drive you crazy. The money will alienate you, all these things. But the product on the field is better than ever, and the parity is better than ever. Just here in the Big 12, I mean, Oklahoma and Texas have gone to the SEC. They've won one of the last four titles.
Yeah.
They've each made the conference title game just once in the last 4 years. Kansas State and Baylor have won titles in the last 3 years. Oklahoma State's made it to Arlington twice in the last 4 years. Across the country, we're seeing similar things. Is the free agency of the transfer portal, is it spreading out the talent? Is that what's going on? And we've got more good players everywhere.
Well, I hope so. But it's also, it's going to create that parity in the free agency if we all are working under the same model of here's what your number is financially. There's no parity if one school's got 25 million and another school's got 4 million or 3 million. Then there's no parity at all. Then the rich are just going to get richer. I love the parity part of what we're doing. And you're right. Everything you're saying about the product on the field is much better. But the product on the field is unknown early on in the season. And that's where, whether it's Oklahoma State, ourselves, Florida State, you lose a game and the sky wants to fall because the expectation was, well, you should be this. Well, you still got to play the games and you still got to develop the guys in your locker room. You still got to develop all the new guys you have. And it's difficult because the sky does fall when you lose a game, and that team may have just gotten better, and maybe their transfers worked and fit for those guys. And so it's the product's really good, but we should almost have no polls and all that other stuff. And I know that doesn't help; it gives talking points, but I think some of that outside noise affects young people.
You said something earlier I thought was very interesting when you talked about you're playing not just new teams, new schools to the league like Brigham Young or Arizona, but you're playing teams that have remade themselves in the portal and have virtual roster makeover, extreme makeover. Is it harder than ever to get a feel for your opponents, especially early in the season, and exactly what you're dealing with when you've played Oklahoma State or Iowa State or Texas Tech or whoever? Year after year, you sort of know what you're dealing with. Is it harder than ever to know what you're dealing with?
It is, and I think that's the intrigue that everybody likes as well. I think that's what makes it cool for the fan bases. We went down and played Tulane, had no idea what to expect because Willie had done such a great job there and went to Houston. And Summerall came over from Troy, didn't know what players he brought, didn't know any of that stuff. And we played pretty good the second half and won the game, but we didn't know anything about their personnel. Then the next week we come in and play Arizona, knew a lot about the two kids, the wide receiver and the quarterback, but they had a coaching change. So you really didn't have a lot of film to watch other than their first two games of the season. But that's the way it is now. And then we play BYU, we have no data on, and they got after us. And then now we get Oklahoma State, we have Iowa State, we have KU that we don't have a lot of data on. But I think that's part of the intrigue for the fans too, is seeing these new schools and seeing these new programs and realizing anybody can beat you based on what they maybe accumulated in the portal.
Well,
or lost in the portal, more
right.
specifically, or what they lost.
Exactly. Well, Chris, I sure appreciate it. Always enjoy it when the Sooners would go up to Manhattan. Going to continue that with the Cowboys, OSU, K-State. To me, two exemplary programs in that really over the decades picked themselves up by their bootstraps and built great football fan bases, traditions, those kinds of things, and continue to fly the Big 12 well. So good luck on Saturday against the Cowboys.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Chris Klieman, Kansas State. Stay tuned next week for more college football on the Berry-Tramel Show.